selling these for us, and we always know what's happening. We act, we play, we dance, we sing from 9 to 10 on Saturday morning. Youth on the go. Whoa, let's start the show. Youth on the go. Whoa, let's start the show. Let's go, let's go, let's go.
TDC Financial Services, we're here for you to help you make your dreams come true. Whether your needs are big or small, we'll support you with them all. TDC Financial Services, we are strong. TDC Financial Services, this is where you belong.
TDC Financial Services, where money is made easy.
Good morning, and welcome to this edition of Youth on the Go here on Bond Radio. I am Zahnela Claxton from the Department of Education, and we are here with you on Saturdays to share information, updates, activities, and today is a special Saturday. It is the last Saturday of the month, and we know what happens on the final Saturday of the month. The Nevis Disaster Management Department partners with us at the Department of Education through our schools to provide updates and information on our various disasters which may affect us here on Nevis. And so far for the year, we've had several students coming through on Youth on the Go on the final Saturday. We had students from the Charlestown Primary School, we had students from the St. James Primary School, the Joyceton Library Primary School, and the St. Thomas's Primary School. And just in a few moments, you'll find the very best that you can. We also had a few competitions and activities this week. As I have during the inaugural STEM week, we saw different activities happening daily. On Monday, we had the STEM week launch. Persons visited every school on the island to share a bit about STEM and to share the calendar for the week, and of course the STEM jingle. And then on Tuesday, we had our Math Infusion Day, and throughout the island, our students were exposed to math being infused in different subjects throughout the school day. On Wednesday, we had the STEM Challenge, the inaugural STEM Challenge. Not just a quiz, but a challenge. And so each school had a team, a contingent of 5 persons representing their school, and they were given challenges, timed challenges, and then they were scored accordingly. Some of the challenges included mathematical sums and activities that they had to complete. Some of the challenges were science experiments that they had to complete, and we had a very interactive day. The day went on, and at the end of it, we were able to see in our primary school segment, first place, the Ivor Walters Primary School, second place, the St. Thomas's Primary School, and third place, the Maud Cross Preparatory School. And then we transitioned to Friday, and on Friday we had before I go on to Friday, in the afternoon, the secondary schools competed. We had 2 secondary schools competing, Gingerland Secondary and Charlestown Secondary, and they did a tremendous job. In fact, there was a 1-point difference between the 2 schools in terms of winners. Just like in the morning, there was a 1-point difference, and so we can see the exceptional work being done by our students. And we had the Charlestown Secondary School Lions emerging victorious in that STEM challenge, and then in second place we had the Gingerland Secondary School Panthers. And so, as I said, it was an interactive day, an active day, and it would be remiss of me if I continued without saying a heartfelt thank you to the sponsors for the event, the First Federal Cooperative Credit Union. And of course, you know their catchphrase, we say yes. The First Federal Cooperative Credit Union sponsored the entire event, and we are so grateful to the team at First Federal for seeing the vision, for embracing the vision, for as I said, it was an inaugural event, and it had never been put on in this way, and so it took their confidence in us to put their money behind this activity, and we are truly grateful to First Federal for this. We then transitioned to Friday, where we had the STEM Expo. The STEM Expo was sponsored by the Embassy of China, Taiwan, to the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and we had Ambassador Lin here with us from the Embassy on St. Kitts. And Taiwan has been working with our federation for 40 years. This is their 40th anniversary. This year marks 40 years of partnering with us here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. And interestingly, this year will also mark our 40th anniversary. And so the government of Taiwan has been supporting us in many ways. We've seen scholarships, many scholarships. We've seen sponsorships. We've seen our Mandarin classes that are happening in some of our schools, our secondary schools, and in the community. All of these things are just a few of the ways in which Taiwan is partnering with us currently. And of course the recycling campaign as well. That's a major campaign. Ever so often you might see some persons at the Delta gas station area, and once you bring your recyclables, you're able to win prizes. And so all of those things have been happening through this collaboration, through this partnership, and they have partnered with us with a significant contribution of $15,000 US. We were able to give the schools funds to help them to get their projects together. So each school was able to get some funding to help them with their STEM projects. We saw some magnificent work out there yesterday. We're so proud of our students. We're so proud of our teachers and our principals, and of course the members of the community who helped for ensuring that the students had these remarkable projects ready to put forward. We applaud, we commend everyone involved. At the end of the day, the competition was an open competition, so there wasn't a secondary or a primary section. It was open. The criteria was based on the competition guidelines and a rubric. And so in third place, we saw the Joycelyn Library Primary School, and they received the prize amount of $500. In second place, we saw the St. Thomas's Primary School. They received the prize amount of $700. And then we saw in first place the Gingerland Secondary School. They received the prize of $1,000. So congratulations to all of the students who participated. And outside of the competition, which was the last thing for the day, I know the level of interaction between the students and the community was at an all-time high. As I said, I was impressed by the eloquence, by the ability to explain what was done, and I think that we are getting closer to our goal of ensuring that our students are more confident, that our students have the basic skills which will ensure critical thinking and collaboration, and we saw that throughout this week's activities. So we have the 4 C's that we are promoting through the STEM initiative, and this is just one component of the STEM initiative. There are other components that you will see rolling out over the next 3 years. This initial rollout is a 3-year rollout with, of course, continuation after that. So we look forward to seeing some of the upcoming activities that will come about as a result of the STEM initiative and roll out. As I close out on the conversation about STEM, I want to take this opportunity to highly commend and applaud the team at the Department of Education, particularly the STEM unit. We have a STEM unit which they have been the ones who have been working diligently behind the scenes, ensuring that the STEM activities come to fruition. And just know that the STEM activities are not limited to the week that you saw, but also supporting teachers in classrooms, classroom observations, workshops. All of those things are happening as well as part of the whole process of the STEM rollout. And so we are excited, and congratulations to our STEM unit, members of our STEM unit. The STEM unit is led by Education Officer Mr. John Williams, supported by Mrs. Tamicia Lestrade, Ms. Shona Hendrickson, Ms. Tamu Reed, Mr. Garfield Virgo, and Mr. Dawson Utley, and of course to everyone out there at the department who made sure that they also put measures in place to help to ensure that the STEM week was a success at our department. We ensure that we try to support all teams and all activities. Yesterday the office was closed so that everyone could be there to support. And it does not end there at the Department of Education. There is no end to our contribution and to our work. So in the coming week, we can look out for the start of Child Month 2023. We are going to have a month packed with activities, and we encourage you to support the Child Month activities. We will start off, of course, on June 1st, which is Thursday. We'll have a church service, and then from there, there will be several activities. Save the date. The Child Month Parade is right around the corner. The Child Month Parade is on June 9th. All right, so we hope to see all of you at the parade or supporting the parade in some way, shape, or form, because it is important for us to support our children. And it's so interesting, coming off of STEM week, that the area of focus is STEAM for the Child Month activities, empowering our children through STEAM. And of course the A, which is added to STEM, the A represents arts. So it's science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. So for preschool, for the early childhood, which ranges from preschool to grade 2, from birth to grade 2, that will be the focus for the month of activities this year. All right, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we get to meet our disaster ambassadors for this month.
Sugar City St. Kitts, keep it sweet. Keep listening to Vaughn.
It's time, come on, rise and shine. You know, I know, we're gonna have a great time. And now we're past it quickly, you don't wanna miss it. So turn up the radio, it's you on the go. You on the go. Whoa, let's start the show. Oh, you on the go. Whoa, let's start the show. Let's go. I will learn new things. I will be creative. Grab the gears, let's gather around. An adventure is always waiting. The storytelling news for us, and we always know what's happening. We act, we play, we dance, we sing from 9 to 10 on Saturday morning. Youth on the go. Whoa, let's start the show. Youth on the go. Let's start the show. Let's go.
TDC Financial Services. We're here for you to help you make your dreams come true. Whether your needs are big or small, we'll support you with them all. TDC Financial Services. We are strong. TDC Financial Services. This is where you belong.
TDC Financial Services, where money is made easy.
Good morning, and welcome back to this edition of Youth on the Go here on One Radio. I am Zahnela Claxton from the Department of Education, and we are here with you every Saturday to share information, updates, activities. This Saturday is the 4th Saturday of the month, so we have some special guests in the studio. This month we will be focusing on a special area of a disaster which can affect us, and I think it's very current. But before I go into what exactly we'll be speaking about or which disaster we'll focus on, I'll allow our representatives to introduce themselves and tell you which school they attend.
We attend the Nevis Academy Primary School.
Okay, and of course you have to tell us your name.
My name is Zuri Harper Twaits.
My name is Adrena Indra Paul.
All right, so I have Zuri and Adrena here this morning, and Zuri and Adrena are going to share with us on our disaster focus for the month of May, which is droughts. Droughts have a wide range of adverse economic, environmental, and social impacts as rivers, reservoirs, groundwater levels, and soil moisture all drop when we experience drought. Lack of rain for an extended period can cause losses to crops, timber, livestock, and fisheries. Water shortages for home use and industry may result, affecting personal and environmental sanitation. Environmental losses from water shortages may occur due to an increase in the number of fires and the amount of dust and concentrated water pollution. According to the Caribbean Drought Bulletin, May 2023, which is actually this month, girls, conditions are likely to shift from La Nina to El Nino in the Pacific during the summer of 2023, which would likely result in a decline in rainfall, particularly in the Eastern Caribbean and the Guyanas by late summer. So we might be looking forward to even a greater decrease in rainfall, and we know what it's been like recently. So can you imagine less rainfall, which can then lead to drought? But I've been using the word drought, and our listeners might be thinking, what is drought? And Zuri, we're going to call on you, our disaster ambassador from the Nevis Academy, to tell everyone out there, what is drought?
Droughts occur when there has not been enough rainfall and the water levels get low, and can increase the risk of other hazards like wildfire, flash floods, and possible landslides or debris flows.
All right, thank you so much for that, Zuri. So everybody out there knows what we mean when we use the word drought. Adrina, where can droughts occur?
Droughts can happen anywhere in the Caribbean region.
So that means that we're not special, and we can't sit here and say, oh, we'll never have a drought in Nevis, because it's possible, right? It's very possible. Okay. All right, over to you, Zuri. What are the 3 types of droughts which can impact Nevis?
3 main droughts can impact Nevis, namely meteorological drought, hydrological drought, and agricultural drought.
Well, Zuri, you've taken it to a complex level, because we all thought that drought is drought. But now we realize that we have 3 types of droughts. So, Adrina, let's start with meteorological drought. What is that?
A meteorological drought is when rainfall over a region is less than 75% of the normal value, the long-term average rainfall over a period of weeks or months.
Okay. All right. Sounds interesting. So let's see what Zuri has to say about the hydrological drought.
Hydrological drought. When the water scarcity leads to a situation that there is marked depletion of surface water, causing low stream and drying of water bodies such as lakes, reservoirs, and rivers. It may also result in recession of mountain springs.
Okay. All right. So because of the situation and the scarcity of water, we can look at a marked depletion or decrease of water surface, and that will cause low stream and the drying water. So imagine your lakes and rivers and everything starting to dry out. That's kind of scary, because we need that water. Water is life, right? Yeah. Okay, and then we have the agricultural drought. Adrina, tell us what that is.
Agricultural drought happens when scarcity becomes so acute that the soil moisture is not adequate to support healthy growth of crops. The irrigation needs cannot be fulfilled by groundwater also.
So, Adrina, you're trying to tell me that the soil can become so dry and that there's no water or not enough water below the surface that the crops may not be able to survive? Mm-hmm. And that can affect us not only because we have a low amounts of water, but we kind of need food. So we're seeing the importance of drought coming out even from our definitions, girls, aren't we? All right, so our awesome ambassadors, that's double A, awesome ambassadors. Our awesome ambassadors are going to help us with our drought awareness. They started off by sharing the definitions, but we are going to go back to Zuri, and Zuri is going to tell us, what should we do indoors during a drought?
Never pour water down the drain when there may be another use for it. Make sure your home faucets and toilets are leak-free. Avoid flushing the toilet unnecessarily. Take shorter showers and do not let the water run while brushing your teeth, washing your face, or shaving. Use 2 containers, one with soapy water and the others with rinse water. When washing dishes by hand.
So you're telling us, Zuri, then, that we shouldn't just have the water running when we're washing dishes by hand, and you bring your soap and you wash it and the water's running and you just keep going. That's not what we're supposed to do? No, we need to have 2 containers?
Yes.
Okay. Well, some people out there have to go change their lifestyles and their habits because you're wasting water and we need our water. Okay. So, Adrina, what should we do outdoors? We heard a bit from Zuri about what we can do inside the house. What can we do outdoors?
When washing your car, use a shut-off nozzle on your hose. Do not overwater your lawn. Plant drought-tolerant grasses, ground covers, shrub, and trees. Do not buy water toys that require a consistent stream of water. However, make sure that any animals, particularly those that host outdoors, have plenty of clean water.
Because we don't want our animals to have to suffer either. And so we have to make sure that is happening. Now, Adrina, about this shut-off nozzle on our hose. I know some people, when they're washing their cars, they just have the water kind of running, and then they wash the car, then they put the hose down and let it run, and then they soap the car, and then they wash it off, and all the time for all that time the water is running. So we have to start giving a strong warning to those persons, because based on what you said, that can't work. Okay. All right then. So, Zuri, tell our listeners, how does drought affect us?
Drought can affect us economically, environmentally, and socially.
Economically, environmentally, and socially. And those are a lot of leads. Right? So Adrina is going to start off and tell us how it can affect us economically, because we have to get people to understand. Right, Adrina? Okay.
Yes. Farming is less successful during a drought, which means the price of groceries is affected because there is less food to sell. Livestock is more difficult to take care for during a drought.
Okay. So that means that the costs will go up. So economically speaks to cost. Okay? All right. Zuri, tell us about how droughts can affect us environmentally.
Water levels drop, and there is a lower flow of water. This lack of water is dangerous for animals that live in water. We see more pollution on the surface of the water.
Okay. So we see now that it's not just the amount of money that we would have to spend that may increase, but that we can have some impacts on the environment as well, and especially for our animals and our plants. This can have a very negative impact for them, which we don't want. So we have to pay keen attention. All right, so we talked about economically, which means more or less money. We talked about environmentally, how the drought can affect the things around us. Now we're going to talk about how drought affects us socially, and Adrina is going to lead that charge.
People's health can be affected by heat waves and having to use less water. People can become stressed due to higher food costs and the lack of other things that are normal in their life.
Wonderful. So, Adrina, Zuri, we're seeing that droughts have a great impact. We're seeing, of course, we know that there are different types of droughts. So we've taught, your teachers today, we've taught the persons listening to us a lot about droughts. And so we're going to finish our lesson. We're going to share some words that everyone out there would need to know. Zuri, what's the first word?
Conservation.
Conservation. Can you spell conservation for them so that they know? It sounds like a long word. Let's spell it, and then we'll tell them what it means.
Okay. CONSERVATION.
All right, so that's conservation. What does it mean?
Conservation is the act of protecting and saving natural a natural resource like water.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so Zuri used the word, an R word just now. She said resource, and that's our second word that the public needs to know. Adrina, spell resource for everyone and tell them what it means.
RESOURCE.
All right, so that's resource. What does a resource mean?
Natural resource refers to something we need that comes from nature, like trees, water, and air.
Okay, we have one final word, Zuri. Let's bring it home with our vocabulary lesson for today. What's our last word?
Reservoir.
Okay, spell reservoir, and reservoir has a nice little ending there, so pay keen attention, boys and girls. Reservoir.
RESEVOIR. Reservoir.
All right, we're going to spell it one more time just because it's so unique.
Okay. RESEV.
Left one letter out. Okay, let's go again.
RESERVOIR.
Okay, RESERVOIR. It's trying to trick us, Zuri, but it's not going to win. Reservoir, what does it mean?
Reservoir is a natural or man-made lake that collects and stores water.
All right, so we've had our vocabulary lesson for today. We've had our information about droughts shared by our awesome ambassadors, our double A's, coming out of the Nevis Academy, and we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll learn a bit more about droughts.
In Queen City, Nevis, this is the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean, Vaughn Radio.
It's time, come on, rise and shine. You know, I know, we're gonna have a great time. An hour passes quickly, you don't wanna miss it. So turn up the radio, it's you on the go. You on the go. Oh, let's start the show. Oh, you on the go. Oh, let's start the show. Let's go. I will learn new things. I will be creative. Grab your gears, let's gather round. An adventure is always waiting. The storytelling needs for us, and we always know what's happening. We act, we play, we dance, we sing from 9 to 10 on Saturday morning. Youth on the go. Whoa, let's start the show. Oh, youth on the go. Whoa, let's start the show. Let's go.
TDC Financial Services. We're here for you to help you make your dreams come true. Whether your needs are big or small, we'll support you with them all. TDC Financial Services. We are strong. TDC Financial Services. This is where you belong.
TDC Financial Services, where money is made easy.
Alright, welcome back, and we are here having fun with our AA Awesome Ambassadors from the, well, I should say ADA Awesome Drought Ambassadors from the Nevis Academy, and they have been doing an amazing job. They've helped us to get a better understanding of what is drought. They've told us a bit about the types of drought, and they've shared some advice as to what we can do both indoors and outdoors to ensure that we are not wasting water, that we are conserving. And then of course they had to wrap it up with our vocabulary lesson. They have done an amazing job, as I said. And so Zuri and Adrina, we have a gentleman in the studio with us, and he is very smart, very intelligent, and he knows a lot about water and water conservation and about droughts and what we should do to make sure that we're not wasting. And we're going to use a chance while we have him in the studio to get some more information out to the public. So Mr. Floyd Robinson, you're going to share with our ambassadors and our listeners this morning a bit about drought and of course water, and we're going to grill you a bit because you know we have some experiences happening on the ground, so we're going to grill you as well.
Thank you for having me here. I'll take out a couple of the varies that you put in there in terms of smart. I'm okay. I must say that I had some tight competition here because I listened to them on the way over and I almost turned back. So wondering why am I needed? But I'm the director of what's called the Integrated Water Resource Management Unit, and a lot of words there, and basically water management, but we tend to take an approach which is integrated. So you mentioned agriculture this morning, so that's one area that uses a lot of water. We know hotels do, tourism. We know when we talk about our ecosystems, we have wetlands, that water is always there, Nelson Spring area, So what I do and my department does is really trying to look at all these areas and try to figure out, do we have enough water to sustain all these things? Because they're all important, And in the past, we tend to just look at maybe domestic use, maybe agricultural use, but then a bunch of other uses. Commercial. A number of car washes have now popped up in Nevis, something when I left in 2009. And by the way, I was the former manager of the water department too. When I left in 2009, you had your personal car wash, your bucket, and you would wash your own car. Now we have about 6 car washes around the island. So certain commercial uses of water too tends to, be a challenge in terms of keeping up with the supply. So that's basically what I do in terms of, and my ADAs, as a matter of fact, I was thinking this is a wonderful thing, and trying to integrate some of the information that was disseminated here this morning for use. But honestly, I don't have much to add based on what they were saying. They went to the different definitions of droughts, some good conservation tips. I think one of the things that we have to understand that water supply is not just about the water department. The consumers have to be a part of the deal. And we alone, there's no country on this earth. Big countries like England, there's a big river that runs through England called the Thames, that's the way I pronounce it. It's a big river, and they're struggling providing water for their country. So reuse, that's another term that we have in the business, recycle and reuse, kind of the same thing, and a lot of that is not being implemented in these countries. And so we are tad behind in using those approaches for development of water. But so it is not just up to the utility. Everybody is responsible for the water that goes through and that's being used, and so everybody has to be responsible. I guess that twice, didn't I? But they have to be responsible for their part when the water comes into the house. Leaks. One of the places that leaks happen mostly is like in your toilet. We flush the toilet and we're gone. It may or may not stop running, and so a lot of times you have leaks in those areas and even leaks other places, and so consumers must report on a timely manner the leaks that they're having and get them repaired. Report leaks even on the utility side. There's sometimes when the lines to your house would burst, or main lines. We have lines as big as 10 inches. You could imagine if one of those rupture, lots of water can be wasted during that time. So we are dependent on the public that when they see things like that to give us a call so we could get there quickly and address situations like that. And so my only addition this morning to what they two very, I think I'll give them the 3 very smart young ladies have added is just about the total approach that we have to take in really conserving and managing water. So that's basically it for us. We're in a period right now where it's dry, and what we try to encourage is not only during drought do we practice these things, because we can save water even when there's a greater surplus. That's okay, because when the drought period comes around, it means that we have a good starting point in terms of the storage, in terms of the supply, and so the drought can be mitigated. It wouldn't be as bad, when the drought period comes around. But when we are continuously wasting water during the rainy season, and then when drought comes along, you could imagine how bad it will be.
All right. So, Mr. Robinson, we know we've had a heat wave.
Yeah.
It's been very hot, and we've been encouraging our children to drink more water. We've been encouraging them to remain in the cool, and it hasn't rained a lot. I mean, I think for the last few days we've had some rain, which is good. We really appreciate that. We've also been going through a period of scheduled water outages, and so with the heat and the water outages, and we read at the beginning of the show that the Caribbean Drought Bulletin states that we might be looking at a decline in rainfall in the late summer. How can we prepare? Is it possible to prepare for what may come?
And I think that, to use the example with hurricanes, we still use the word prepare, but I think now hurricanes have become, it's a way of life. And so the actions that we take preceding a hurricane season has just become a natural way for us now. That's what we're trying to get when it comes to water conservation and just water in general. It must become cultural. We're not just waiting until something goes down for us to take an action. What made the situation worse with the outage is that during last week, 2 pumps went down. Within days. And we have, so you'd imagine we have supply, we're producing water, and the island is consuming. The amount of water they consume is very close to what we produce. So you could imagine that if we take a pump out of service, then obviously we have a problem. There are situations where we have breakages and water is lost overnight sometimes that we don't get it as quickly. So, but the balance is so close that any hiccup in the system, then we start suffering like we are. Then there's also the fact that, of course, you mentioned it's hot, so some people want to take extra showers during the day, trying to cool down. I mean, that's just natural. And there's no way to stop that. But again, in doing so, we ask that, of course, you do the conservation techniques where you turn off the water while you're soaping up and lathering and stuff. So you have that creates an increased demand on the system during the hot period. We obviously, and it was mentioned again by the ambassadors, that it's hotter outside. Animals, I mean, people have lots of animals that require water, even our pets. We don't consider the amount of water they consume, but again, if it's hotter, then the amount of water we need as humans just increases. So again, the demand goes up during those periods. So those are some of the pressures that this heat wave this dry period bring on the system. And again, because the balance is so close, then it's just sometimes that we just can't keep up. And so we are forced sometimes to ask for rationing, so we could just, at least during the times when we would, when we're sleeping, we're hoping that water is not being used greatly. And unfortunately, sometimes when we look, so we have meters that tell us how much water is passing, and when we check during the nighttime, the flow is already diminished as much as during the day. So something is not right. Water is going somewhere during the night when we expect the flows to be lower. Something is happening.
Some kind of leak or
something is happening. So we're trying to investigate those things to reduce that, because we expect the flow to go way down during the night time, give our reservoirs a chance to refill, and so we're trying to investigate what's going on. And I must add that the water business is pretty challenging. We have about 18 wells, another 20 tanks, but these wells are distributed around the island. One is as deep, a couple of them as deep as 500 feet, maybe more. And the shallowest may be a 150 or so. And you could imagine this deep hole down inside the earth that you just can't see and tell what's going on. So you have to use a number of equipment to assess what condition they're in and stuff. And it's not like you could put the equipment down when the pump is there. So you have to remove the pump, take a look, see what's happening, make an assessment. So it is not a straightforward situation. And when we have a problem in the mechanical part of our system, it really affects us. Really affects us. So again, this is where the public would have to come in again on their side to really try and conserve, and not just during dire times. I made a point yesterday on another program that during COVID, our water consumption went up. But
really?
Because you were washing more frequently and stuff. We were home, more people were at home. You're washing your hands every time you touch something.
That's true.
You were encouraged to wash your hands. But what we saw is that with the public education, we did a lot of conservation. We conserved the water while we wash. We turned off the tap, we lathered, and then we rinsed quickly, and so a lot of water wasn't consumed, even though we were going to the taps more often. But what has happened that COVID has abated, has we have gone back to our habits of turning on the tap and let it run. So I think that again, and as you mentioned about preparation, so we did a great job during COVID to get that action, but then we said all clear.
And then everything went
back to more bad habits.
Oh.
Yeah. So it has
we have some work to do. We have some work to do. So, girls, do you have any questions yet for Mr. Robinson? Adrina?
Yes, I have a question. During your presentation, you mentioned something about a pump. What exactly is a pump?
So why didn't you bring these very smart? So
you are very smart.
Well, let's see if we can match them. So a pump is basically a device that's able to use water. Now, a simple pump is like when you drink from a straw. The drink comes up to the straw and it goes in, goes down your throat. A pump is a device similar to that so the pump has a number of elements in it, but it's also turned by a motor. So it spins, and in that way it's able to bring the water. So the water, in fact, here we go. So if you were drinking from this bottle with a straw, the straw would obviously have to be down inside the water, right? So the similar thing, we have wells that go way down, and that's like a big straw down there, and we put the pump down inside there below the level of the water, and when the motor turns it's able to bring water up to the surface. And so I mentioned before, we have some wells that are 500 feet deep. Now, those are new things. We initially, way back in the 80s, when the first number of wells were dug, 250 feet was our deepest. Now we have doubled that and sometimes triple that now in terms of trying to extract water. So the pump is just a device that's able to lift the water from way down, that far down, and it goes to the pipeline and it goes up to the big tanks that you see. Some of them, some are blue, some are green, some used to be white. We have repaired those ones. But that's basically what a pump is.
Thank you.
You're welcome, man.
Well, Zuri, do you have a question yet? Not yet.
I'm still thinking.
Okay, so Zuri's going to tell me her question. But while Zuri's thinking, I don't know if you had the chance to go to the STEM Expo yesterday at Malcolm Gishar Recreational Park. If you didn't, you missed something grand, because I'm going to share a few of the things that I saw. Some of them, so they had a challenge in the afternoon.
Okay.
They had to identify an issue at their school and come up with a solution, a renewable energy solution for that issue. So, and he had to have two moving parts.
Okay.
Whatever their project model was, he had to have two moving parts. And as you spoke about, the scarcity of water, my mind went quickly to the project by the Charlestown Primary School. They're proposing a poop to power initiative where you're taking individual waste from a septic, and there's a long process, but it gets you into some of it is used for cooking, for gas, but the runoff is water that is clean enough to water plants and do those kinds of things. So that's their proposal. They also made some recommendations to us at the Department of Education, and they made some recommendations to the Premier as well on the country level. They recommend that we look at doing shared septic systems through planning, so that we can get the runoff, the water, and the gas to save power. And they also recommended that we have a better network of septics, or using our septics at the schools, because we use a significant amount of resources there. They're recommending that we do something similar to be able to perhaps use the gas from that to power the cafeteria and to water the plants and their greenhouses and shade houses and things like that. So that was an interesting one that I saw there. We still had some hydroelectric ones, but those would depend a lot on the water being already in process, and then you have some solar energy. But as you spoke to that and the scarcity of water, I found that very interesting, and I thought that I would share. And they had it set out, so they had from the toilet, the whole thing come around, took up 2/10 or so, came back around, and then they had the end part.
Well, I am sorry I missed that, and I'm smiling from ear to ear because the country is in good hands. and thirdly, I guess I have to hurry up and get to retirement stage. I could move out the way to let these really very, very, very very smart folks. Those are some actually very viable options. We use septics, which are just single units per household. And in most countries, in a lot of countries, you do what's called centralized. So instead of having one septic, then the waste goes along a pipeline, similar to what's in terms of the water pipeline, and collected in a bigger area, which we know. So it's just honestly the will, or as we build new constructions, then we need to start implementing these things. But we still culturally do, what we're accustomed and comfortable doing. But we have to start making policies too, because exactly what's being said, I can't add no subtract from what you just said.
And I learned that everything I learned, I share with you, I learned it at the fair from the students. Yeah. I didn't know it before.
That's wonderful stuff, and really and truly, again, those principles are there, and it's just the will to go ahead and start implementing them. Animal waste, for example, biomass. That's something, the technology is old, but it's doable, and a lot of small islands, even some farmers would implement those things for their own private, sustenance of their farms and stuff. So it's very doable, and we have to find a way, because we can't wait until there's a crisis. And so I'm really proud to hear that the kids are thinking along that line, and we really need to encourage them and really try to have them as they get into high school and so on to really start developing some of these things and start that shift, because this climate change thing is not just a pop-up and it's done. And this is not the first time. The term climate change might be a new term, but the climate has always been changing. We heard about the ice age, and so it has always been changing. And so we have got to really now use technology and all the new information that we have to really start implementing things before. Solar, for example, is interestingly enough in a region that has so much sunshine, we still have not really gotten solar off the ground in a really effective way. And I'm not sure why. The panels are there. During the climate change, the US would have made push and new solar companies came online, but I'm not sure why. So we really have to push, and especially this. And I'm happy that the schools, because one of the things we did through disaster, actually, they now back up water supplies at the schools.
Yes.
Because and you probably get upset every time school has to close because there's no water.
Out. Yes.
And as a matter of fact, during this last outage, Ivor Waters had to close down, and I rushed over because that should not have happened, because we put something in place so at least a day or two schools can function, unless it's something more serious. So we have those backup supply tanks, and solar is in probably the next move now. As a matter of fact, solar enough to run the schools and run those pumps, such that even if power goes out, school can still function.
They had some of those too yesterday.
Okay.
They had a few solar. They had their solar panels on the tent roofs, and it was powering their school. So one school had that. I also saw a desalination plant yesterday. We have ocean, and desalination means you take the salt water and you purify it to make clean water. So Elizabeth Pemberton Primary had a desalination set up yesterday. So that was something. I don't know what is the feasibility of desalination for us here, but that was something that they used.
You're making me feel better than Mr. Show yesterday, because it's great stuff.
Girls, were you there yesterday? Yes, I spotted Zuri. I remember spotting Zuri yesterday.
That's very encouraging, because again, that's also part where we talk about the public be responsible. We say the kids are our future, and if they're that much invested, that's just wonderful stuff. It's just now to keep them encouraged, and with STEM, teaching them the engineering and the technologies to really develop these things, and maybe improve, or not maybe, but improve on them. Because again, it's that whole cyclic thing. The car used to be an inferior thing back in the day. Now it's just a fancy stuff. It has so much things in it now. Constant improvement. And we really have to, I think one of the challenge we have culturally through the Caribbean is that we have to be careful. We older folks sometimes don't put enough trust in our young people to really pick up the mantle. For some reason, and sometimes there's a sign of, and I don't want to say immaturity, but they're young and they're frolic, but underneath that, they're terribly intelligent, they're committed. And so that we don't see that because sometimes they seem to be having fun. And what we have learned recently, and you know this, we can have fun and be serious.
Yes.
We can, you know. And so maybe those of us who came up in a different era are having a challenge identifying that and trying to use that. But I am really happy. I mean, I visit some of the schools, and the feedback I get, you know, is just really incredible. The one thing we want to add to the backup supply is to go to full rainwater harvesting. So the schools have spouting. So instead of having, the backup supply that we have is water from the utility, and you have a tank just waiting in case the supply is interrupted. Then you go to the tank. We want to put the spoutings back on the school and put that water into those tanks. So whether water goes come or not, you don't care.
Yeah.
You have a supply. Unless we have a prolonged drought, then you know we have to do something different. But at least during the time of abundant rain, we don't have that pressure on the utility, and the pumps won't have to run as much. The water table is not affected, and so on and so on. So those are some of the things we're trying to. So I think your school is my first stop next time when I come visit. So and just try to keep the conversation going.
Okay, wonderful. Before we close out, and we have just about 2 minutes left, Adrina and Zuri, do you have any advice, anything that we said earlier that you want people to remember about drought or water?
Like don't waste the water. It's not very good so as to save up the water so we don't have excess water just going to waste and those kind of things.
All right. Zuri, anything you want people to remember?
I want people to remember, like, whenever it rains, you should, like, have something to collect water. So, and also don't, like, waste. Make sure, like, you know, there could be another use for the water. You may not think so, but you can find another way. Because once you, like, use it and throw it out or something, you may, like, oh, I need water for this, and then you don't have it.
All right, good advice, sound advice from our awesome ambassadors, Zuri and Adrina. They represent the Nevis Academy, and the Nevis Academy is the school which will be promoting, or which promotes drought awareness, and they are the school for the month of May. Remember, every fourth Saturday we come here, we ensure that we are promoting an awareness of various disasters, and so next month, we transition. Everybody knows the month of June starts the hurricane season, and so next month we will have 2 new ambassadors in the space with us, all doing an awesome job, but those ambassadors will be focusing on the hurricane. We want to thank you, Zuri, thank you, Adrina, awesome job, and of course we want to say thank you to Mr. Robinson as well. Listeners, next week Child Month starts, so we look forward to those activities. We'll talk more about them next Saturday. Until then, have a wonderful and safe extended weekend. Students, see you on Tuesday, and for the rest of you, we just wish you the very best during the upcoming week.
TDC Financial Services, we're here for you to help you make your dreams come true. Whether your needs are big or small, we'll support you with them all. TDC Financial Services, we are strong. TDC Financial Services, this is where you belong.
TDC Financial Services, where money is made easy.
It's time, come on, rise and shine. You know, I know, we're gonna have a great time. And now it passes quickly, you don't wanna miss it. So turn up the radio, it's you on the go.